I don't know if it was the smell or the silence that hit me first, but something was off. It was Saturday morning, maybe closer to noon, and I had just gotten back from the gym. I remember the rain had finally let up, and the driveway still had that glossy post-shower sheen. I walked in through the side door like I always do, wiping my shoes on the mat out of habit. The house was quiet, which was weird. Lauren's car was in the driveway, and usually by this time, she'd be playing some random indie playlist or half-watching a true crime doc in the background while multitasking 10 things at once. But today, nothing. Then it hit me. Cologne. Not mine. I stopped just inside the hallway. The scent was strong, rich, smoky, but not in a cheap, overwhelming way. This was the kind you'd find at a designer counter, something with a French name you can't pronounce without sounding pretentious. I don't wear anything like that, and it wasn't a maybe, it was unmistakable. I stood there, staring at the hallway for a second too long, like maybe if I waited, it would just fade. But it didn't. It lingered like a shadow, subtle, bold, wrong. Then I saw her. Lauren was coming down the stairs like nothing was unusual. Hair curled just slightly, makeup light but definitely there, lips glossed with something new. She wore a denim jacket I hadn't seen in months. Probably since that one brunch last spring where she complained it was too stiff in the shoulders. And below that, a simple black tank and jeans, like she was trying not to look like she tried too hard. She paused halfway down the stairs when she saw me. "Oh," she said, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. "Didn't hear you come in." "Yeah," I replied slowly, eyes not leaving her. "Guess I was quiet." She gave me a smile, the kind that felt too light, almost like a placeholder smile, the one you give a neighbor you don't feel like talking to. I glanced toward the kitchen. 2 mugs sat on the dining table. One was hers, the green one she always uses for tea. The other was plain white. My white one, the one I usually take to the office. Still half full. Steam rising. It wasn't mine. She didn't follow my eyes, but she must have known I saw it. She took another few steps down, casually fixing the sleeve of her jacket like we were about to head out somewhere together. "I made tea," she said casually. "You want some?" I ignored the question. Who was here? She tilted her head like I was speaking a language she didn't quite understand. "What?" I nodded toward the kitchen. "There are 2 mugs." She followed my gaze, blinked, then let out a little laugh that didn't sound like a laugh at all. "Oh, that," she said, waving it off. "It was just a friend from work. Needed help with something." I didn't respond, just stood there, let the silence stretch. The smell was still in the air, and it wasn't a scent you forget easily. It didn't belong in our house, in our hallway, on her. "He just stopped by for a second," she added quickly now. "Honestly, Garrett, you're overreacting." My name in that tone, calm, measured, a little annoyed. That's when I felt it. That slow burn in your gut when you realize something is deeply wrong. But the person standing across from you is already moving on like the moment didn't happen. "I didn't ask if it was serious," I said. "I asked who was here." She looked at me like she was weighing her words, then shook her head. "Garrett, we're not doing this again." Again. That word hit harder than I expected. I didn't move, didn't blink, just waited. She sighed, deep and theatrical, like I was the one creating the tension. Like this was just another episode of my imagination running wild. "If you're going to start this again," she said, voice cooler now, "maybe we do need a break." I stared at her. "You're not even going to tell me his name?" She opened her mouth like she might, but then shut it again. Instead, she crossed the room, walked right past me, and picked up her laptop from the arm of the couch. The screen was still on, and that's when I saw it, a tab open to a booking site. It was a completed reservation for a ride from our address to the airport. The name on the booking? Blake R. Not a friend I'd heard of. Not a name I recognized. Not her coworker. And definitely not a rideshare she ordered for herself, because the timestamp showed it had already dropped someone off 10 minutes ago. I looked at her, waiting for something. A flinch. Correction. Anything. She saw me looking, saw the name on the screen, reached over, closed the laptop like it was a minor inconvenience, and said, Can we not do this today? Seriously, Garrett. I'm tired. You're tired, I repeated. That's your explanation? She folded her arms. I said he was a friend. I helped him with something. He left. That's it. I took a deep breath. Do you even hear yourself right now? I hear you, she said quickly. I hear you loud and clear. Every time I see you, it's like you're waiting to catch me doing something. Maybe that's the real problem. I laughed under my breath. You mean the second cup? The mystery man leaving cologne in the hallway? The airport ride under a name I don't know? None of that's a problem? She turned away. I'm not doing this. I'm not justifying every little thing because your mind jumps to conclusions. Then she turned back, eyes sharp. You're acting paranoid, Garrett. And it's exhausting. That's when she walked to the fridge, opened it like it was any other day, and started looking for a snack. Just like that. Like the whole thing hadn't happened. I watched her pull out the oat milk, pour some into her tea, like it hadn't been sitting out long enough to go lukewarm. Seriously? She said again. Do you want tea or not? I didn't answer. Couldn't. My brain was trying to make the pieces fit, but they weren't lining up. The jacket she hadn't worn in months. The smell of a man I didn't know. The second cup. The name. The casual lie delivered like truth. She didn't slip up. She didn't get flustered. She expected to be believed. Or maybe worse, she didn't care if I believed her or not. That was the part that stuck with me. Not just the lie, but how cleanly she delivered it. How fast she redirected the conversation. Made me feel like I was the problem for even asking. She sat on the couch and pulled her laptop back onto her lap like nothing happened. Opened a new tab. Started typing something. Hummed softly to herself. I stood there, staring at her like I didn't recognize the person in front of me. And the thing is, in that moment I really didn't. She was someone I'd known for 4 years. Lived with for 2. Shared holidays, arguments, inside jokes, and plans for the future. But now she was just someone closing tabs, sipping lukewarm tea from a mug she didn't bother to rinse, brushing away the truth like lint off her shoulder. And somewhere in that hallway, the smell of someone else still clung to the air. After she went upstairs, like nothing had happened, I just stood there. The house was still, the only sound being the quiet whir of the fridge and the ticking wall clock we got on our 2nd anniversary. Back when we thought matching aesthetic kitchen items made a home feel whole. I sat down slowly, across from the cold teacup, the one Blake R. had touched. Or held. Or whatever. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it across the room. The other part just couldn't move. It wasn't just the cup or the jacket or the cologne. Not anymore. It was everything else. Everything I'd pushed aside. Everything I wanted not to be true. Because the truth is, I'd seen the signs. I had, not all at once, but piece by piece. Like tiny cracks in glass that you tell yourself aren't spreading. Until suddenly the whole thing shatters. Lauren started working at the agency in Seattle about 10 months ago. That's when things really started to shift. It wasn't dramatic at first. Just subtle things. She had new coworkers, new friends. Inside jokes I didn't understand. That made sense, new environment, I told myself. She's just adapting. But then the quick drinks after work became a regular thing. Friday nights turned into overnight stays at Mel's place or girls' weekends that I wasn't invited to. And whenever I offered to drive her, pick her up, even just meet her downtown for dinner, she'd find a reason for me not to. Then there were the phone changes. Before, her phone was always around. She'd leave it face up on the kitchen counter while cooking, toss it on the bed while getting ready. But now it was always with her. Always face down, set to vibrate. Sometimes, she'd take it into the bathroom and close the door, and stay in there for 20 minutes, saying she needed a hot shower, even though I couldn't hear the water running. And I asked her, more than once, why the password had changed. She told me it was just a new work policy. Something about data security, don't worry. I tried not to worry. I told myself not to be that guy, the jealous boyfriend, the insecure partner who reads too much into things. I reminded myself that relationships go through phases, that she was tired, busy, stressed, that it wasn't about me. God, I wanted to believe that, but there were moments I couldn't forget. Moments that sat heavy in the back of my mind like something rotting under the floorboards. I remember the massage. That was around late spring, maybe May. She said she was going to this new place downtown. Highly rated. A coworker had recommended it. I thought nothing of it. Until she came back after midnight, said the appointment had run late and traffic was bad. But she didn't smell like eucalyptus oil or lemongrass. She smelled like hotel shampoo. Her hair was wet and not in the way it looks after a wash. It was towel-dried, messy, and her earrings were missing. She said she took them off during the massage and forgot them there. I told myself she probably did. That same night, I noticed her phone had 6% battery left. She'd been gone for 5 hours. Another time, she came back from a weekend at her sister's. She said they'd been relaxing at a spa in Olympia. But the shared card we use had a charge from a boutique hotel in Bellingham, completely out of the way. When I asked about it, she blinked, laughed nervously, then said, "Oh, right, we changed plans last minute. It was closer to the winery we wanted to check out." There was no winery mentioned before, nothing in the original plan, but I nodded, like a fool, and dropped it. Why? Because it was easier to believe her than face what it meant if she was lying. But maybe the worst one, the one that should have done it for me, was when she removed me from her emergency contacts. That was in July. I found out by accident. We were both filling out forms for travel insurance. She had booked a trip with her team to go to San Francisco. The form asked for emergency contact info. I noticed my name wasn't there. I joked, "What, am I demoted?" Trying to keep it light. She laughed and said, "It's just in case there's a mix-up. I don't want you getting a random work email if I sprain my ankle or something. Besides, I always text you." But the way she said it, it wasn't casual. It was rehearsed, defensive. I should have asked more questions. I should have checked her calendar, her flight confirmations. I should have done something, but I didn't, because somewhere deep down, I knew the truth. I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to be right, because if I was right, that meant the life we built, the one with the gallery wall and the road trip playlists and the handwritten notes we used to leave on each other's pillows, was a lie. Or maybe not a lie exactly, but something that had quietly expired without either of us admitting it. She used to tell me when something was wrong, when she had a hard day or when she was stressed. Now everything was fine, always fine, no detail, no emotion, just the same empty tone. And yet, every time she'd smile and kiss me goodnight, or curl up next to me on the couch with her legs over mine, I let myself believe it was still us, that she was just distant, not dishonest, that this was a phase, not a pattern. And that's on me, because I saw it all. I noticed every shift, every new habit, every little cover story. I just filed it away under normal because admitting the alternative would have broken me. But now the mask was slipping. Because today she came down those stairs with another man's scent clinging to her skin like a secret she wasn't even trying to hide. She left his mug on the table. She had just sent him away in a car that wasn't hers. And she looked me in the eye and told me I was the one overreacting. I sat there for a long time after she went to her room, just thinking about the way she didn't flinch when I saw the booking on her screen. About the name, Blake R. Not even a fake name, not hidden, not buried under an alias, just there, like she assumed I wouldn't look, or wouldn't dare ask again. And maybe she was right. For too long I didn't ask. I made excuses. I gave her the benefit of the doubt again and again until doubt was all I had left. But that was over now. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was confirmation. And not the kind you yell about. Not the kind you chase with accusations and slam doors. No, this kind of truth, it's quiet, cold, heavy. It makes you sit still in your own house and stare at the things you used to love and wonder when they stopped being yours. It makes you remember every time she looked away when you asked where she'd been. Every strange charge. Every muted call. Every night she came home smelling like a stranger. It was all right there. And I let it happen. Because I wanted to believe we were okay. But today Today, I finally believed what I already knew. I didn't say anything that night. Not when she came back downstairs in sweats and acted like she was too tired to talk. Not when she curled up on the couch and scrolled through her phone, laughing softly at whatever video she pretended to be watching. Not even when she brushed past me to turn off the hallway light before bed. She didn't bring it up again. Not the jacket. Not the tea. Not Blake R. Not me standing in the middle of the living room feeling like a ghost in my own house. The next morning, she left early. Said she was meeting a few of the girls in Napa for a weekend thing. Last-minute plan, apparently. Who's driving? I asked, casual, like I wasn't keeping a mental file in my head of every name she'd ever used to cover her tracks. Mel, she said quickly. You remember Mel, right? Tall, curly hair? I nodded. I remembered Mel. I remembered her saying Mel moved to Bend 3 months ago. But I didn't say that. She packed light, just a duffel and her makeup case. She wore that casual but not really outfit again, the kind that says, I didn't try that hard, while clearly trying. She even spritzed perfume, which she never does for girls' trips. Too much luggage clutter, she always said, and she left smiling. She always smiles when she lies. I waited until her location stopped updating. She must have turned it off mid-drive, something she never used to do. I tried not to jump to conclusions. I told myself not to dig, not to snoop. But that voice, the one I'd been silencing for months, started whispering again. And this time I listened. I opened Instagram. Not hers, she was too careful now. Too curated. No location tags, no stories. All minimal. All staged. But her friends? They weren't as practiced. Especially her coworker Kayla. The one who couldn't resist documenting every pool, plate, and poured glass like she was auditioning for an influencer gig. I searched her name, tapped her profile. There it was. A story posted just 30 minutes ago. Muted music. A clinking of champagne glasses. A slow pan across a backyard pool setup. White robes, fruit trays, glittery drinks with little umbrellas. A soft breeze ruffling the curtains of a poolside cabana. And there, in the reflection of the sliding glass door, Lauren. Not alone. He was behind her. Tall, clean-shaven, shirtless, arms wrapped loosely around her waist. Her head tilted slightly back like she was laughing at something he whispered into her ear. She wasn't pulling away. She wasn't surprised. She was comfortable. The clip was maybe 6 seconds long, but it felt endless. I watched it 3 times, then paused on the exact frame where their bodies blurred together in the glass. It wasn't a guess anymore. Wasn't paranoia. Wasn't something I could excuse away with, maybe it's just a friend, or bad angle, or you're being jealous. No, this was real. This was her. With Blake. I didn't even need to wonder if it was him. The ride booking. The name. The timing. The scent in the hallway. It all added up. I kept watching the stories. In the next one, they were sitting around a charcuterie board, wine glasses clinking, a sun flare catching everyone mid-laugh. And there, on the table, 2 glasses set close together. One of them had her lipstick on the rim. The other, same shape, same pour, had none. Then came the dinner post. Tag. Auberges du Soleil. Not a cheap night out. The photo showed a candlelit table on a private terrace. Shared plate. 2 forks. A chilled bottle of Moat. I zoomed in. Same earrings she left the house wearing. Same dainty gold chain around her neck. Same hair clip. Her phone was face down next to her napkin, right beside a black leather wallet. Not hers. They weren't hiding. She wasn't hiding. She just assumed I wasn't looking. And maybe until that moment she was right. I sat there in silence, staring at the screen, the phone starting to feel heavier in my hands. I tapped through again, each image peeling back a layer of the life I thought I had, like wallpaper being stripped from a wall you didn't realize was crumbling underneath. I checked the location tag. They were only 2 hours away. Not a different state. Not some vague weekend getaway. She was close, laughing, toasting, posing for pictures with the same friends she swore didn't know anything. And not once did she think to block her trail. Not from me. Not from anyone. That was what got me. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the carelessness, the assumption that I'd never notice, that I wouldn't put the pieces together, that I was too passive, too patient, too trusting to see the truth even when it was framed, filtered, and posted in 1080p. I opened my camera roll and started saving **TS, one by one, not because I planned to use them right away, not yet, but because I needed to hold the truth in my hand. I needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that the gaslighting, the deflections, the "you're imagining things" weren't real. What was real was the look in her eyes in those photos. That soft, slightly smug look, the one she used to save for me. Now it was his, and she didn't even flinch being seen with him. She wasn't scared of being caught, which meant she didn't care if she was. That hit me harder than anything, because if someone isn't afraid of hurting you, it means they already have. I scrolled back through her messages, old texts, archived photos, little things that used to mean something. A birthday selfie with a heart caption. A snap of her in bed holding the book I bought her. A note she left on my windshield one morning. "Don't forget how loved you are." The handwriting was still the same, but it didn't mean anything anymore. She had stopped being mine a long time ago. I just hadn't realized it. Or maybe I had, and I was just pretending not to see it, because facing the truth meant facing the fact that she didn't value what we had enough to fight for it. She was already gone, physically close, emotionally checked out, spiritually on another planet, sipping champagne with someone whose name she probably saved under something harmless like work. I sat there until the light outside started to fade, the glow from the screen now the only thing illuminating the room. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stared at the last image of her, arm linked through his as they walked toward the pool, half smiling like a couple in a travel ad. Happy, effortless. That was the moment the spell broke. Not because I saw them, but because I saw her, and she didn't look like someone caught in a mistake. She looked like someone exactly where she wanted to be. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just sat at the kitchen table long after the sun dipped below the trees, phone in hand, mind stuck on a loop. That reflection of them in the glass door. The two glasses. Her smiling in the background while Blake whispered something into her ear like she hadn't just lied to my face 24 hours earlier. I wasn't even mad anymore. That's the part one didn't expect. I thought I'd be furious. Thought I'd punch a wall or scream into a pillow like people do in movies. But all I felt was stillness. Not calm, just silence. A silence so complete it felt like I had slipped out of my own body and was watching this happen to someone else. And in that silence, I made a choice. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to confront her when she came back, yell, or demand answers she'd twist into something else. I wasn't going to ask why or how long or was any of it real, because I already knew the answers. I had something better than confrontation. I had the truth, and the truth doesn't need to raise its voice. I stood up, went to the coat closet, and pulled out the fireproof box we keep on the bottom shelf. The one labeled house/legal. I grabbed it, brought it to the kitchen, and opened it next to my laptop. Inside, every deed, contract, notarized signature, prenup, and agreement we had filed away over the last 4 years. I had organized it all at her request, just in case, she said once, laughing. We ever want to be adults about this stuff. At the time, she said it like a joke. But it wasn't a joke now. I found the folder labeled Contingency Agreement, Marital Assets. We'd signed it at the advice of my lawyer, Allison. Back when Lauren was just starting her job at the agency and wanted to split her career off from mine financially. It was clean. It was fair. And it had one clause she once called dramatic. A clause that activated full asset reassignment in the event of proven infidelity. She laughed at it during signing. Too official, she said, waving her hand. You think I'm gonna cheat on you or something? No, I'd replied. But I think people do things when they're bored or sad or lonely. I just want us protected. Both of us. Garrett, she had said back then, touching my hand with a smile. If I ever got close to messing this up, I'd walk away first. I'm not that kind of girl. She signed it anyway. Now her signature sat right there. Dated. Initialed. Witnessed. My hands didn't shake when I picked it up. I emailed Allison right then, just after 2 a.m. Subject: Review request, contingency trigger. Body: Hi Allison. I need to trigger the clause regarding infidelity outlined in the asset agreement Lauren and I signed in 2022. Documentation is attached. Please let me know the next steps to make this formal. I want this processed quickly and quietly. No drama. I attached *TS of the booking confirmation, the geotagged Instagram stories, the reflection photo with timestamps, a screen recording of the ride receipt, the dinner photo with matching jewelry and lipstick on the glass. I even added a *T of Lauren's text to me that morning, claiming she was going to Napa with the girls. Allison replied less than 6 hours later. Subject: Confirmation review underway. Body: Garrett, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I reviewed the documentation, it's solid. The clause is valid and enforceable. I'll begin the formal review and initiate asset reassignment through the LLC. Please confirm you'd like to proceed. Once we file, it's active immediately. I stared at her message for a long time, not because I was unsure, but because there was something final about it, like crossing a line you can't uncross. I replied, "Proceed." Within minutes, the dominoes started to fall. The property transfer request was submitted. A freeze was placed on our joint investment accounts. Our house, the one she insisted we title under my business for tax reasons, was already structured under the holding LLC. By the time she'd be home, the digital locks would be updated. The security system would flag her old code as inactive. No fights, no yelling, just silence. The same silence she'd been giving me for months. I went through the rest of our records. Split accounts, receipts, photos. I backed everything up into a private folder. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed clarity. I needed to know exactly what I was walking away from, and what I was protecting myself from. I kept thinking about something she said once, during a lazy night on the couch, back when things still felt normal. We were watching some dumb true crime show, and the wife in the episode had cheated on her husband and drained their accounts. Lauren had laughed. "If I ever cheated," she said, half joking, "I'd be smart about it. No paper trail. No **TS. No red lipstick on wine glasses." It was a throwaway comment, one I had forgotten. Until now, she had tried to be smart about it. She had changed her passwords, turned off her location, started using Uber instead of the shared card. But she wasn't careful enough, because she didn't think I was paying attention. And for a while I wasn't. That was on me. But I was paying attention now, and everything was about to change. She came back on a Tuesday, 2 days after the Instagram post. I heard the wheels of her suitcase before I saw her. That soft drag of plastic over concrete, steady and smooth. She always packed light, just enough to look casual, not so little that it drew attention. I was upstairs when I heard the sound. I didn't move, just stood near the window, hidden behind the curtain, watching her come up the path like she owned it. She looked untouched, hair done, loose waves, freshly washed, a tan line at the edge of her collar, gold bracelets clinking as she adjusted the strap of her bag over one shoulder. The same "don't worry, it's just a girl's trip" duffel slung across her arm, her phone in one hand, a half-empty iced coffee in the other. She paused at the porch and took a breath. Then she pulled out her key, slid into the lock and stopped. She jiggled it once, twice. Tried again. No click. The handle didn't budge. From upstairs, I watched her shoulders stiffen. Not panic, just confusion. She looked down at the key like maybe it had bent in her bag. Then she tried the code on the keypad. Her old code, the one tied to her phone. The one she never updated because you always remember it. The keypad blinked red. Again, red. She stood there for a few seconds, lips parting slightly, blinking at the door like it might suddenly open if she just stared hard enough. Then she knocked. It wasn't a soft knock. It was sharp. 3 quick taps, just loud enough to suggest she was still in control. I didn't answer. She waited. Knocked again. Still nothing. That's when she noticed the envelope taped to the door. Plain white, folded once, tucked under a strip of clear tape. She pulled it off, stared at it for a beat, then opened it. From where I stood, I couldn't see her expression, but I knew what was inside. A formal notice, termination of residency, effective immediately, filed under her full legal name, served through the LLC, signed and notarized, backed by the clause she'd laughed at 2 years ago. And between the papers, a yellow sticky note. Simple, handwritten. You asked not to be bothered. I listened. She froze with the envelope in her hand, eyes scanning the porch, the windows, the driveway. She looked toward the upstairs window once, briefly. But I didn't move. She called my name once, not loud, almost like she didn't want the neighbors to hear, as if saying it quietly might make it more reversible. Garrett. I stayed behind the curtain. She stood there for another minute, long enough to hope, not long enough to accept. Then, slowly, she stepped back from the door. She pulled out her phone. I watched the screen light up in her hand, probably trying to call me, maybe texting, maybe deleting something she should have deleted a long time ago. I didn't answer. She called again. No response. Eventually, she walked back down the porch and sat on the top step. Like maybe this was temporary. Like maybe the house would come to its senses and let her back in. She sat there for nearly 20 minutes. I watched as she scrolled through her phone. At one point, she pulled up something that made her shake her head. Maybe she found the **TS I'd quietly removed from our shared drive. Maybe she realized her name had already been removed from our utilities, our accounts, our credit cards. Or maybe it was a message from Blake. I'll never know. She looked at her phone, then back at the door, and I could almost see the gears turning in her head. The internal story she must have been trying to write. He's overreacting. He just needs to talk. He'll calm down. We've been through worse. Except we hadn't. Not like this. She had crossed a line I hadn't drawn in chalk. It was permanent. Inked. Built into a document she once signed without reading. Eventually, she stood up, brushed invisible dust off her jeans, picked up her suitcase and her duffel. She didn't knock again. She just walked down the path, paused once at the end of the driveway, like maybe I'd call out, or run after her, or come downstairs with an explanation. I didn't. She turned left and disappeared down the sidewalk. I didn't know where she went. I didn't care. I sat on the floor near the window for a long time after she left, not even sure what I was feeling. It wasn't victory. It wasn't closure either. It was just quiet. Not the suffocating quiet of doubt and second-guessing, but the kind that follows a slammed door. The kind that feels like a wound finally closing. Not healed, just sealed off from further damage. I stayed like that until sunset. Let the house go still again. Later that night, she sent one last message. Garrett, please, just talk to me. This isn't the way to do this. I came home to talk, not to fight. Please just answer. We can fix this. I didn't reply. The typing bubble popped up once, then vanished. She didn't text again after that. The next morning, I had the locks changed again, just to be sure. Installed a new security system. Canceled her access to the Wi-Fi, the thermostat, the doorbell cam. Felt petty at first. But it wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries. Real ones. Not the emotional walls I'd tried to build for months. Not the polite silences I kept out of fear of pushing her away. These were hard lines now. Physical lines. The kind you can't ignore. She made her choice. Now she could live with it. Lauren showed up at Allison's office without an appointment. No warning. Just walked in like that would undo everything. She asked questions, demanded explanations, but Allison stayed calm. Just handed her the final packet. Lauren flipped through it fast, looking for some loophole, a missed detail. Then slower. Her face changed as she saw her own signature, her initials next to the clause she once joked about. She had signed away her share if infidelity was proven, and I had proven it. She looked up, asked if there was any way to change it. Allison's voice didn't waver. Everything's filed. Everything's in effect. Lauren didn't cry, didn't beg. She just stood there for a moment. quiet, then left without another word. 7 months passed. We hadn't spoken. Then, at a memorial in Portland, I saw her again across the crowd beside another man. She looked older. He whispered something, and she smiled. But when our eyes met, everything froze. No wave, no hello, just a silence that said more than any apology ever could. I nodded once. She didn't nod back. And that was it. No drama, no final scene, just space cold, clean, and final.